Hello and welcome back to another episode of Creator Codes. My name is Cassandra. You can call me Cass. At this point, we're friends. Call me Cass, will ya? Call me whatever you want. Oh, I have a rainbow in my hair if you're watching on video. I have sun catchers. I love them so much. But today's episode, it's been highly requested for me to talk about the dark night of the soul and what a spiritual awakening is. So I also want to explain a little bit about my story of how I awakened and what dark night of the soul I have been through. And I'm going to be honest with you, I just recorded almost a half hour right before this and I stopped it and I was like, I feel like I'm just going on so many tangents. So I'm re-recording because I love you guys and I want this to be a little bit more focused about the most potent things that you can gain information from, not just me talking about me and my life and all this stuff. Even though I know you guys are kind of interested, and I will definitely talk a little bit about what happened in my life. But mostly I want this episode to help you see yourself in the dark night of the soul in a way that can be more helpful and understand when you are going through a spiritual awakening. And now I will say this is through my experience, what I've experienced and what I've seen other people experience. So a dark night of the soul is when you are basically experiencing an existential crisis, when your soul is crying out to be heard. And a lot of times at first your human is like, I don't know why I'm so depressed right now. Why do I feel so dark? So it literally feels like a dark night. When the sun is out, you're like, I wish it was raining. You know, it's one of those like deep depressions. And trigger warning, when I had my dark night of the soul, I did have suicidal thoughts. But this is what happens is you literally question your life. Why am I even here? Would I be better off dead? Probably, because I feel like just a problem right now with what I'm experiencing. It feels like an issue. It doesn't feel like there's anything good from what I'm experiencing right now. Like there's nothing good here. And that was the feeling that I was having. Now, I will say this was when I was about 28, 29, probably 29 or so. And this is my first Saturn return. So Saturn returns, just like a solar return is every single year, right? You get a year older, another rotation around the sun. And so that is just like with the Saturn return. This Saturn returns every 29 to 30 years. And so a lot of times when people have their first, second, maybe even third, I don't know, I haven't talked to a lot of those people, that's around like 90 years old, you have this existential, like, whoa, this, like, it hits you like a ton of bricks when your soul is not being listened to in any way, shape, or form. And especially if you're here to help spread and enlighten the consciousness of the collective, when you're here to help spread the light, right? When you have a big mission, a big soul pull, us leaders, you can call it, us people that are here to be the light, to lead the way. When we hit a Saturn return, it can feel very rough because when we're not following our light, when we're not following our joy, it's going to hurt like hell, literally feel like hell. Because we are meant to choose heaven and understand what hell is here on earth. And that is my perception of heaven and hell. It's now. Which one do you choose? It's not going to heaven or hell when we die or when our souls move on. It's right here and right now on earth. Are we choosing hell or are we choosing heaven? And so sometimes it's kind of like you have to kind of choose your discomfort, choose to be uncomfortable, choose to be radically honest with yourself. And if you're not doing that throughout your life, you're going to be hit like a ton of bricks and you're going to kind of sink into hell in a way so you can experience what it's like underground, what it's like in the dirt, in the mud, in the depths of the water. And it's not fun because in the dark, you can't see. In the dark, it's scary. It feels like you're alone. You literally can't see anything. And so that's what hit me when I ended up moving to Florida it was after I got fired from a bridal stylist job in New Hampshire. I was a fitness instructor at the time. So I left that job to move to Florida because my sister moved there. She had a new baby. My first niece, Macy, my girl, she is 6 years old now. And oh my gosh, I just love her so much. But I moved there just like to Sunshine Land, right? And I remember the first day that I woke up in Florida, I swear to God, it was like Pleasantville. I've never seen a bluer sky. I've never seen such a perfect palm tree when I was going for a walk. You know, like everything out on the outside was perfect. I was with my new glorious little baby niece. I was with my sister. But I felt so depressed. I felt like no perfect outside could make my insides feel good because I had it backwards. And up until that point, you know, getting fired and just kind of like everything was up in the air and there was stuff that was happening. I wasn't like, oh, I wonder why I got fired. I was just like, damn, F that. Like, let me get out of here. I don't want to be here anymore around these people in this town, you know? Like, and so I kind of escaped, but I didn't escape myself. You can't. And someone once told me, no matter where you go, there you are. I never understood that until I went and there I was. I didn't. I was like, I don't understand that. Like, I actually didn't. And that was before my awakening. But now I'm like, yeah, that makes sense because no matter where I went, like, I could not outrun me. I could not outrun my demons. I couldn't outrun my darkness. The darkness that I never allowed to penetrate through me. People always saw me as positive. I was, and happy, and I was, pretty much. I mean, as far as I can remember. I had this thing where I, like, don't remember a lot of bad things that I've been through, and who knows, maybe that's trauma. But I'm talking even, like, small things. It was really interesting. My friend was like, you don't remember, like, being depressed for 2 weeks? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't remember it. So bizarre. I'm like, maybe that's a gift of mine. We won't call that trauma. It's not like these big trauma events. It was just like random times where I felt sad. I didn't remember. It was so weird. Let me know if you relate to that. But I remember this time that I was sad because it was more than just sad. It was a deep depression where I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to handle it. And I ended up, so I moved in with my sister in Florida. And then she ended up kicking me out. So do we see the theme here? I got fired from my job. My sister kicked me out. Like, what is that energy? It's like me kicking myself out. That's the reflection. I wasn't paying attention to me. I was just like escaping. And I couldn't see that then. I didn't understand the law of reflections. I didn't see that, like, oh, I had a role in me getting fired. I had a role in my sister kicking me out. At the time, it was like, bitches, you know, them bitches. But now I can see it and be like, whoa, that was such a theme. And like, if you know me, which a lot of people, like, you guys see me, and I'm very real. Like, I'm very much myself. You know me if you watch my videos. I don't hold back. I'm a very kind and loving person. I literally don't want any fights. I don't want any tension. And that's the thing about the law of reflections. It doesn't care how you treat other people. It cares how you treat yourself. So during that dark night that I wasn't actually allowing myself to deal with, it was like, oh, I feel depressed, but like, I'm just going to go swimming. You know, like I wasn't really questioning it at first when I got to Florida. And then my sister kicked me out. The universe is like, yo, girl, wake up. Hello. The outer world is a reflection of your internal world. If it doesn't feel happy, what does that mean about your internal world? And so my internal world, I just like, and this is such a broad statement, but like I kind of pretended for a long time to just be the light. I didn't know any better. Like I just thought it was, you know, I don't know. I didn't really feed into any darkness because I didn't really believe in it or didn't really pay attention to it. And And I probably did like blame other people when things went crazy around me, like getting fired and stuff. And so eventually the darkness caught up to me because let's be real. The universe is half dark and it's half light. It would not exist if it was not 50-50. It is the law of polarity. And so finally, like after being such a quote unquote light for so many years, for my entire life, the Saturn return came. And it was like, bitch, do you know what darkness is? Do you want to be a leader? Do you want to know what it feels like to be depressed? And let me tell you, I did go through dark times. I mean, college, there were sexual abuse type of stuff, like pretty dark stuff, as a matter of fact. But I didn't deal with it. It happened, and then and that's it. I ran away. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's becoming clear now. That's what happened. I literally left that college where that happened, where it was just a whole story of like the basketball team taking advantage of me. And sorry if I didn't say trigger warning. I don't know if I have to like say that, but I'm not going to get into details. It's just I was taken advantage of as a freshman in college, alcohol involved. People were buying me alcohol so they can do this stuff. And it was traumatizing at the time. And I just remember calling my mom being like, I need to leave. And I left after the first semester. Like we even had to pay for the housing because we had signed a contract or whatever. Stupid college. I like really do not like the whole way the education system is set up. It's just to get our money. Clearly, like I had to leave because of something horrible that happened, and they still wanted, they had to keep my money. So anyways, a side tangent, I ended up I just left. And again, like that was when I was 18. So it's kind of started then. Like that was one of the worst things that ever happened to me, that I never looked at. I never sat with until a couple of years ago when I had my first like real legitimate coach help me through that and transmute that energy and help me see it in a totally different light and like bring it to the light, right? And so that's kind of how the dark night of the soul for me happened, was pushing things in the dark for so long that it was like, bitch, come, let's have a party. Let's have a darkness party. It didn't feel like a party. I'm getting the chills. And so it felt so dark. So the dark night of the soul is something where, and I know a lot of you guys have experienced this, a lot of you just are unsure what a dark night of the soul is. And so this is just my explanation from my own story of it was hell on earth. It literally felt like hell. And I felt like there was an angel with me, and it could have been me and my higher self. Like I just felt like there was a presence with me that was walking me through it, even though it was seriously the hardest time in my life. Before this, actually, my cat passed away when she was 4. And this was right before I left, actually, to move to Florida. So again, these are things, I felt like I dealt with that because I just cried all the time. But that kind of was like the catalyst as well. Getting fired, my cat dying at 4 years old, my poor baby. And then moving to Florida, feeling empty, and then getting kicked out of my sister's, and then moving in with my dad, who, by the way, he lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. So I'm like, really? I'm living here with my dad at 28 years old, 29 years old, and it's a 1-bedroom apartment. How do we do this? So he lived on the couch, and I didn't ask him to. I literally just needed somewhere to stay because I didn't have anywhere to live. And like my sister was throwing my stuff out of her house. It was so dramatic because the universe really, and like my guides, my higher self really wanted me to see something in front of my eyes in order for me to finally come to terms with this darkness that was being thrown at my face. And so finally, like at my dad's, I had my own bedroom. He gave me his bedroom. He slept on the couch. He's a couch guy anyway, doesn't have a lot of clothes. So like, it was really nice. He gave me the bedroom. He was in the living room. I know, like such beautiful arrangements, but God bless him for allowing me to go there and for yeah, for letting me stay with him. And I was there, I don't know how long, almost like 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years. No, not 2 years. Maybe it was at least a year, I think. I would have to like really look at it. It's crazy how time, like, I don't even know. But I was a server at the time. And during this time, I actually had to call out of work because I was crying so much. Like, I couldn't pull myself together. I couldn't see the point of anything. And I would just, there was a part of me, I recorded myself. I wonder if those videos, they probably exist on an old phone of mine, because I knew, like, there was a part of me that knew that someday I would be looking back at that time for some reason. I'm like, I just feel like I need to record myself. It was so sad. Like, I couldn't watch those videos because it was just me sobbing about like how I don't know what to do. Like, I didn't know what else to do. So I just sobbed and like recorded myself. I didn't put it anywhere, but I just felt like I needed to do that for myself, almost like a journal. And I did journal, and I did have my journals out, and I did and I felt like that was the first time I ever like channeled information, where it was like, you'll be okay, or like just like one sentence on one page. It was just like I didn't know what to do, and so I just let whatever move through me. I ended up finding podcasts, which saved my damn life. If you guys have not listened to Catherine Zenkina, aka Manifestation Babe, who I met here in Sedona about a year ago, actually. And I told her, you had such an influence on my spiritual awakening. Like, you were my mommy. Oh, and I'm seeing a cat. How cute, across the street. And so, full circle moment. You know what I mean? So crazy. But her podcast helped me so much. I highly recommend her podcast, especially if you're on this type of journey. She really helped me in my awakening stages, and she helped me start my own business. And then I also took a course by James Wedmore called Business by Design. And she's the one who introduced me to him. And they were like my mom and my dad of my awakening. And I will tell everyone that. And I'm still hoping to meet James Wedmore here in Sedona. He lives here. He is just so amazing, like incredible with business, but he's also funny and very spiritual and all the things. And anyways, they helped me get through my first spiritual awakening, was listening to their podcasts. And I still listen to them to this day, especially James, like with my business. Oh, it's so powerful to listen to his podcast. If you are an entrepreneur, definitely recommend Mind Your Business podcast. And so, yeah, it was a really hard time living with my dad in Florida. I just felt like I was at my lowest point. But when I listened to Catherine, I was like, this is another version of me. I felt like everything, every word she was saying, all of the advice she was giving, all of the everything she was saying about manifestation, intuition, I'm like, I know this. I feel like I know this. I feel like she's saying what I know. I feel like she is me on another timeline. Like, that's how it felt. That's how connected I felt to her. That's how much her information resonated with me. And so she really, really helped me, because it helped me connect to a different version of myself, where I allow myself to move through this dark night of the soul, which allowed me to awaken to, being a coach. Like, I started out with basically body image type of coaching, and just like health type of stuff, and loving yourself, and all of the things that I was learning that helped get me out of that dark, deep hole. Immediately, I was like, who wants free coaching? Because I want to get going on this. And I remember having my first session, and I'm like, wow, that felt so good. And she felt so good after the session. My client, or, my unpaying client, she ended up being a paid client as years went down the road, which was really cool. But I just felt like I was kind of regurgitating information, because I was so excited about all of this new knowledge. So it was very like, I kind of got out of the dark night, but like it was all in my head, and it was yet to be fully embodied. And I didn't find that out until I got into a relationship with Joe. Shout out to Joe, my one and only boyfriend that I've ever had. We were together for like 4 or 5 years, but I was a server at the restaurant. He was a chef, not a chef. Nope, he was a cook. Hold on, let me take a sip of water. And I dated some of the other cooks first, and he was very much like a shy boy. And I gave him my number. We ended up hanging out. I ended up asking him to be my boyfriend. I was the one to say I love you first. I was the one to break up with him 4 times. It was like I was running the show. It was definitely a relationship I had to go through in order to understand myself at a deeper level, because I still was going through the dark night. I would say there were a lot of dips into it throughout our relationship, because again, it was like I had so much knowledge. I kept gaining knowledge. But throughout our relationship, it was turning into wisdom. But after our relationship, it truly, like, I was able to embody the wisdom, because I had to leave him after years and years and years. It was like we had a breakup where I moved out, but then we got back together, and that happened like 4 times. And so we were so attached. I mean, again, this was my first like love, but we were kind of wearing masks in the relationship, and it showed me the other layers of myself that I was not willing to like reveal. And it wasn't even revealing. It was more so like what I was kind of embodying. I did a lot of work. I was in a women's group. I hired a coach and like all of this stuff, read all these books. And you guys probably can relate to like learning all of the knowledge, but still feeling like something is kind of missing. And it wasn't until I hired that coach, and it was interesting. I hired him right as I broke up with Joe. Right as I broke up with him, I hired this coach. It was perfect timing. And he was the one to help me transmute some of that old sexual trauma, all of this like weird darkness that was lingering in my life. That was when I had this like, it felt like that whole dark night of the soul for, I would say, was on and off for years. And I've never really even said this to myself until right now, as I'm like recounting all of this back. You know, a lot of times we think dark night of the soul, it's like a month and then, okay, you're awakened, or I don't know how people think about it. Everyone has a different experience too, by the way. And because for my entire life up until the Saturn return era, I really didn't dive into the darkness. It just came in full force. I have mentored people who are 19, 20, 21, and they're going into the depths now. They're not going to have that experience at 29. It's going to be very different for them, because it's not going to hit them like a ton of bricks. Yes, they might have like some sort of awakening, but it doesn't mean they're going to have to dive into the dark night of the soul at 29 or 30 as their Saturn returns. So, and again, it's different for everyone. You know, it's not just like a one size fits all dark night of the soul spiritual awakening thing. Okay. This is just my story, my experience, and the people I've worked with. Like, everyone is very different. And so as I exited that relationship with Joe, we ended up moving back to New York with, I don't know if I even mentioned, after my sister kicked me out, she ended up moving back to New York. Joe and I traveled to Los Angeles for a couple months. This was during COVID. It was such a dark time. My God. We went to Portland, Oregon for a month, and then we decided to move to my hometown in New York. And it was kind of a tough time, a very tough time. And my relationship with Joe, like, even when we talked about it after, he was like, no, I was like so happy. And I'm like, were you though? I didn't think you were, and I don't think I was. It just felt like there was something that was so off. And we were meant to kind of be catalysts for each other to awaken to ourselves at deeper levels. You can call it a karmic relationship. I mean, honestly, every relationship that you experience in your life, your parents and everything, like every person that is in your life is meant to help you see yourself more clearly. Everyone's a mirror, right? So to me, that's kind of like helping you clear that soul karma. There's no karma that you have with other people necessarily. It's more of your own soul karma that you can clear through these relationships. And yeah, we talked about the soulmates and all that stuff in another episode if you want to check that out. But as far as our relationship, I feel like he was actually a soulmate because he was meant to not be in my life forever, even though I want to be friends with him, but I don't think it's kind of possible with our past, and he's in a new relationship. Anyways, we don't want to get too personal here. But like he was meant to be my partner for 4 or 5 years. I was meant to be his partner for that amount of time, on and off a little bit, in order for like me to truly step into my power, in order for me to like actually listen to my intuition. And that is when I hired Brandon, and boom, I had like an awakening in my solar plexus. Like I felt like my heart opened. I felt like, and it wasn't like right when I left Joe, it was actually when we were still living together. He was out of town and I was on this free call. And it was like this masterclass about polarity and all this stuff. And I got the one-on-one coaching for free on this call. Everyone watched. And at the end of it, I was like, whoa, why do I feel so amazing right now? It was like an awakening. It felt like a literal, like spontaneous awakening. Like my body felt open. And I remember doing like some witchy stuff after. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I think it's setting in this energy. It was really an interesting experience. And I ended up working with this guy. I hired him as my one-on-one coach. He knows what he's doing with those free calls. You know what I mean? He hooked me because I literally felt like I was in love. It like opened myself up to love. And oh my God, juicy tidbit, I ended up feeling like I was in love with that coach. But I just was directing once again. It was like the outside world I kept like clawing to, when it was really meant just for me to have that experience of an awakening that he helped facilitate. It wasn't because I'm in love with him. He just helped facilitate me open up to love for me. Oh my goodness. My life should be a book. It should be a reality show maybe someday. It's so funny. It's really so funny. And I love talking about this now because it feels like it's all making so much sense as far as like how I really was seeking outside validation, outside love, outside fun. But again, like when I woke up that day in Florida, it was literally the most perfect conditions you could, like, if you can make a day, it was the perfect day. It wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. The sun was out, the skies were blue, the trees looked perfect, the birds were like it was perfect. But I felt so empty inside. And so that was a representation of like, oh, okay, now like this boyfriend is in my life. So he's going to help me feel more complete in myself. And so he was really a catalyst to my wholeness and to actually embodying the dark feminine, which really came out a lot during our relationship, but I didn't know how to like tame it. It was just erratic. My emotions were out of control. I was not, anyways, there was so much that worked through. And it felt like when I first hired that coach, like that is when the more pure me was coming online, when I exited my relationship for good, because I was ignoring myself for years. The first time I broke up with Joe, it was like a month or 2 months into our relationship, maybe 3, I don't know, very soon into our relationship. I got sober for 2 weeks because Florida is a drinking, oh my gosh, that's a whole other story. It's paradise. So like I felt very influenced by my surroundings. Of course, moral of the story, don't be influenced by your surroundings. And when I stopped drinking for 2 weeks, I was like, we need to break up. I broke up with him. I couldn't handle it. Started drinking again. We got back together. And then the cycle continued for 4 or 5 years of all of that happening continuously. So it's amazing. I only left my boyfriend. I left Joe. It's been almost 2 years at this point. That has not been that long. It has not been that long. And it's not 2 years of no contact. It's 2 years of breaking up with each other. And it took a while for us because we were so attached. We would still go on walks once in a while. I would still get like triggered by him not wanting to go to the woods on a walk and things like that. But when I lived by myself, that's when I truly had my awakening. When I actually chose myself, when I actually decided to leave him, that's when I like started to embody all of this knowledge, which allowed because I had like a mental awakening before, but then when I met Brandon and he was my coach, it was more of a physical, and it like started to embody into me all of this wisdom, like the knowledge turned into wisdom because I started to use it. I listened to my intuition. I listened to my higher self. Leave Joe. I did. For so many years, it was leave Joe, leave Joe, leave Joe, leave Joe. And I was trying to rationalize why I should not leave him. Maybe he'll accidentally get pregnant. Like, all of those conversations I was having in my head. Maybe we need to have an open relationship. No. I was just trying to escape. I wanted so badly to have him, but like to be broken up with him. And so that's where the open relationship came from. And eventually I finally found the courage, even though it felt like complete and utter death. Literally, I felt like I was suffocating when we decided to break up. I knew it was the right thing. Okay, we had a hard time with it, but we decided. He helped me find an apartment. Like, he's a really great guy. He really is. We just are not suitable for each other as far as like companion, or as far as, long-term romantic relationship goes. We had our time. We learned what we needed to. And I wish him nothing but the best. He is a great man, just not suitable for me. And I'm not suitable for him. We've learned that the hard way. And so, yeah, like after I finally listened to my intuition of years of not listening to it, I had the awakening, because it was like, like the seas parted. It was like, okay, hello, you're finally listening and you're taking action on what you know to be true. There's a difference of knowing something to be true, of knowing all these spiritual laws, of knowing all of this knowledge, versus actually using it. And I wasn't using it for so long because I didn't want to leave him because I was scared. And when I left him, I felt like I was going to die. Like when I thought about actually moving out, I literally thought that I was going, like it felt like I was suffocating. I felt like I couldn't breathe. That's how bad it was. Like that's how visceral it was, because of how attached I was to the old identity of needing something outside of me, of not listening to my intuition, and then awakening, truly leaving him. It was like, here we are. And I've had other mentors since, and I'm, training my intuition. And now this embodiment is so different. And that's when my entire life changed. That's when I started to gain a following on social media, like immediately after I left him. I swear to God. Everything opened up for me. And so this is your sign to break up with your boyfriend. No, just kidding. This is your sign to listen to your intuition. And even if it's been years of comfort, whether it's a job, a relationship, whatever it is, you can make that change bravely. And it's going to help awaken you to yourself at new levels. So I hope this episode found you well today. I know that was a lot, but I hope it helps as far as your own journey of understanding yourself and like certain maybe challenges that you're facing, and maybe why. Maybe you are focused too much on the outer. That's usually why these dark nights of the souls happen. And then these awakenings happen when you realize, oh, it's been me all along. It's here. It's right here. I don't need anything else, anyone else. I am complete. I am love. I am light. Anyways, you guys, I'm excited to drop more wisdom in Tarot Intuition Mastery, and I hope to meet some of you guys there. I'll drop the link down below, and I would love to meet you guys on Zoom and like talk with you guys and help develop intuition and your gifts and your knowledge of tarot, and allow you to use your gifts in a way that will help enlighten others to feel more empowered, because that is what I am here to do, and turning all of that knowledge into wisdom through like actually doing what your soul is calling you to do. And the courses I've taken, the mentors I've had have changed everything for me. So let this be the catalyst for you. And I'm so excited to meet some of you guys. I have one-on-one sessions as well. I'll put the links below. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, and I'll catch you guys on Instagram and on social media. Feel free to send me a DM if this message resonated. Or if you have a friend, please share this, subscribe, like, all of the things. Thank you for writing reviews. I appreciate you guys so much. Let's get the word out about Creator Codes. All right, until next time, I'll see you guys.